Hi, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested. I'm working here today on my Oliver number 5, trying to get it cleaned up and in functional condition. Get it tuned up so it's operating correctly. This is the first Oliver I've tried to tackle, so I'm learning a few things. I'd already learned some of them through earlier study, but there's some very interesting aspects to this. Now, one of the problems with these Oliver typewriters is, first, the cast iron base is super heavy. Second, you'll see here that the paint is really suffering. Now, what this finish is I believe Japanning with a green tint, and it looks like it was put on fairly heavy, but if you look at the way the paint is in certain areas, it looks like there were two coats, an upper coat and an undercoat. Now, the Japanning tends to oxidize and fade over time, and it looks like part of the problem is oxidize, fade, and shrink. So it looks like part of the problem is that it didn't bond properly to the undercoat, and it's kind of pulling away from it. But that just may be a function of the way that the paint is shrinking. And the end result of that is that it will start to come away from the metal and flake off. And the typewriter is many different shades of green, none of which are the original, except for maybe certain little bits that you might find under covers that have not been removed before. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of doing. I'm not going to try to patch the color like I might normally do. Instead, I'm just going to give this a nice clean coat of WD-40 or something to protect it. But that's not why I'm here. Why I'm here is I was thinking about what to do for my next video, trying to find a nice idea, and all of a sudden, a very frustrating opportunity presented itself. So as I was cleaning up this carriage rod, I had parked these carriages are designed to be removed very, very easily. All you have to do is pull it to one side, hit the right hand margin release, and you can pull it straight off. And with the later models, there's a hook that has kind of a double end on it. The top end connects to the carriage, and the bottom end is meant to hook into here, so it will automatically catch and remove and park the drawstring for you, so that you can remove the carriage and put it back on without ever having to worry about that. Well, this is not quite that. The hook here is a earlier style, which did not have the double bit on it. And I had it parked here temporarily so that I could remove this bracket and clean it up. And more importantly, clean underneath here. And when I went to move it back, all of a sudden, the string came loose. And I wasn't quite sure what had happened. I thought maybe it had slipped underneath the spring drum, but no. The spring drum will no longer grab. So it just simply gave way. Now, I've already investigated this and started doing some attempt at repair, and then I had second thoughts about it and decided that, hey, this would make a great video to do because this is going to happen. So here, I can lift this cover off, and you can see the spring underneath has broken away from the hub. Now, I had earlier pulled out the broken bits. You can see them here, so I didn't lose much. And what's supposed to happen is that this is supposed to loop around and then slide in between this slot here to have it held in place. Without that, no matter what you do, it's not going to grab. So I am going to take this spring out, which can be difficult, but it works here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to attempt to lift the inner bits up, because spring steel is very hard and brittle. I'm going to attempt to lift the inner bits up here. Let me zoom out a bit. so that I can get them away from the rest of the spring. Then I can take my little butane torch here, get it running, and I can attempt to soften this spring so that I can then form a new center. If I try to do it without softening it, it will simply break. So if I heat this up a little bit, without heating my screwdriver and trying not to heat any other part of the spring, whoop, that's hot. Yeah, that's hot. Starting to feel it in the drum. So I'm just going to heat up about the last inch. That should be enough. Now, I'll let it cool down a little bit. And then I'm going to cool it off with a bit of water. Now, I don't want to do that right away. I want to let it get below its critical point before I do any cooling. Otherwise, I'm just going to make it brittle again. This bottle here is just distilled water. So I always try to keep a mix of different things around, including simple H2O. So now you can see that it's kind of lifted up a bit, but I can fix that. But first, I am going to attempt to put a new end in it. And I'm going to attempt to wind a center. Let me tilt this down a bit so I can get that to go where it belongs. Doesn't got to be perfectly flat, but it should be pretty good. All right. Careful shaping. Now, let's put this back on here. What I want to do is I want to put this just barely past the center hub here. It shouldn't stick out more than just a tiny bit from the other side, maybe 1/64 of an inch. It needs to go through so it grabs correctly. So now, if I turn this, you can see that it's winding around that center. It's not going to be an exact center wind. That's okay, because I don't really want it winding terribly small. And that also tells you which direction this was meant to wind in. Now, if you're ever unsure, let me get the top back on this real quick. I can kind of coach you through here. If you're ever unsure the way that something should be wound, here's a quick little rule of thumb. So if I put this over here, just to hold it in place, and I wind the string around the drum, you can imagine if I pull the string, the barrel wants to go this way. Okay. As I retract the spring, the barrel goes this way. So the barrel always wants to put tension in the opposite direction that the spring will wind around it. So if it's winding around clockwise, you want to wind the barrel counterclockwise. And then do it enough to get good tension on it so that you get good carriage movement and a nice snappy tab, but not too aggressive. Now here, there is a lever here that I should have shown before I put this on. So let me go ahead and just pull this off real quick. It'll take longer to get back on. All right. So this is a key here to wind the spring, and it will do a very good job. On this, what you want to do is you want to wind so that you're adding tension. And so one direction is going to feel like it winds very easily. One direction is going to feel like it winds kind of hard. The direction that feels like it's winding a little harder, that is the direction of winding up the spring. So if you need to adjust the spring tension after you've got it in place, you can use that. In fact, you can use this to wind the spring generally, but it will take quite a bit of time to wind all of that. So what most people will do is they will wind it by hand to start. So let me get this back in here. Actually, let me pause for a minute while I work on something else unrelated to this. Sorry for the interruption there. I was getting ready to put things back together and realized I was about to violate one of my own rules. And that was anytime you have to disassemble something when you're working on a piece of equipment, and in this case, a typewriter, you should always take the time to try to clean whatever you can. So I went through and I cleaned up all the stuff I had access to, did the inside of the barrel, bottom of it, and actually ended up accidentally lifting the spring out of the barrel. And it's a good thing I did, because as I did that, I found two more fragments of the spring that were going to get in the way eventually. So that's what came off of the spring. It was also a little bit rusty and gunky. And the rust isn't quite so bad. It was just surface, but you still don't like to see it. The gunk is also a problem because that's old oil that's turned to a grease. And what happens there is that you can get bands of the spring sticking to each other. So as it winds and unwinds, particularly unwinding, it can do so with a little bit of a jerk as those let go. So it's a decent idea to get rid of that stuff when you can. But now that I have this back together and clean, I need to put some oil back in it. So what I'm going to do, and this is just a sewing machine oil, I'm just going to put a couple of drops in here and then a little bit on the lid, and it will distribute itself. You don't need to overdo it. You shouldn't overdo it. And what I'm going to do here on the lid, once I get my oil bottle, is I'm going to actually take a small section of paper towel and just wipe it across the surface of the barrel. Because this is an upper surface, it's not going to get any oil directly, but I still want to make sure that it's lubricated. So now, putting this back on here, let's go back to what we were doing before. And I am going to insert my spring end through the center hub there, get it all the way down. And in this spring, in this barrel, there's a notch right here with a little slot under it. That is where the knot goes. Now, I'm not going to put it in yet. Actually, I suppose I can. So I'm going to take this hook off here. I'm going to go ahead and put this knot in place. Do that by getting a small screwdriver and packing it into the hole. Then making sure it's underneath that, then pulling it tight. So now I can wind the spring a decent amount, and I can show you the spring winding as I'm doing this. You can see it going to the core. You can see it trying to come out. So that's the sign that it's time to put the top back on. I'll go ahead and do this a little more. Make sure that's all the way down. Go ahead and get my cord in the right direction. Wind this down a bit. And hook it back where it was. And now, while being very, very careful, I'm going to put this back on. Get it lined up with the holes. Screws back in place. There are only 3. Once I get the first one in, I don't have to hold it anymore. Of course, the other 2 naturally are underneath the carriage bar. Boy, that's typical, isn't it? Get in there. Tighten everything down. I'm going to take the string off its anchor. I'm going to continue to wind the spring because it's not wound enough yet. Do one more full turn. And now I will call that done. I'm probably going to have to make an adjustment here, but in this case, so if I turn if I turn this knob clockwise, it's letting tension go. If I turn it counterclockwise, it's building tension. And you can see the center arbor turned there. So I can add strength, I can add windings there quite easily, but it's a slow process. So if I overdo it, I can easily undo it. But here, take this off and I pull it, I've got very good tension here. Just need to get it adjusted to the right point. That feels pretty good. So now I can keep cleaning, and then I can get the carriage back on, which I have been working on here. So it's a little worse for wear. You can tell the chrome here is gone, but the rust has made a nice patina without pitting, so I decided to just go ahead and leave that and polish it up rather than trying to put some kind of aluminum or chrome colored paint on it and fake it, because it just wasn't necessary. The rollers are in good shape. The platen could use a recover, but I'm going to go with it for now because I don't anticipate doing a whole lot of typing on this particular typewriter. Anyway, that's what we have for now. Fixing a broken spring on an Oliver No. 5 typewriter. Once again, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested.